Welcome back. I still have some more finished daily games on chess.com that I would like to go through. A lot of times those games end when I'm not even on the site or the app. That's the nature of daily games. The other player is there at the board when you're not. And sometimes when I do go to the site or the app, I'm working on something else and I don't have time to go through those. So anyway, I have a stack of them. I'd like to get through a few today, but you know how that goes. I usually take too long. Let's look at the first game. From this rainbow of colors here, you can see that both my opponent and I did not play well. They're late in the opening during probably the transition to the middle game. My opponent opened with d4, which I've probably mentioned here that I've had trouble with. I've recently switched back to playing knight to f6 as my response to this, rather than d5, which is what I was doing for the last several months. Stockfish says it would play e6 or d5. I don't know, maybe I should start playing e6. What is that opening called? The Horwitz defense. Because that way that's what I play against e4, so maybe I could play that against d4 too and just learn that. If my opponent plays e4, then I am in the French defense. You know what? Maybe I'll start doing that. But what if they don't play that? What if they play knight to c3? Then I can play knight to f6. And if they play e4, then I play d5 and we're in the French defense. That version of the advanced variation like Ding Liren and Gukesh got into. I didn't even think of that. I could end up playing the French defense either way, depending on what my opponent responds with. It says e4 and knight to c3. Oh, no, it changed its mind. Now it's just e4. Okay, but that doesn't mean that's what my opponent will play. But Stockfish would play e4 or e4, not rated the same for some reason. But a second ago it said knight to c3. I assumed that if they played the other knight out, I could still put my knight on f6. Let's see what masters play if their opponent plays e6 here. c4 is the most common move in master game. Then what does this become? If I play d5, then it becomes the Queen's Gambit declined, right? Let's go back here. If I play d5, it's now the Queen's Gambit declined. Okay, not the French. Well, maybe I need to learn how to play that. But you know what? I think against d4, I might experiment with e6 just for the fun of it. But that's not what I played here. What I played here was knight to f6, which is the Indian game. And my opponent surprised me by putting their knight on c3, which is a book move. But usually when I get this knight out, either the other knight or the c-pawn comes forward. Every now and then they're trying to play the London, so they put the bishop over here. But I don't see this very often, but apparently it is a book move. And in my experience, at my level, not at the master level, but at my level, when this opponent gets this knight out in front of the c-pawn and hasn't developed the dark squared bishop yet, what they're about to do is put this bishop over here on f4 and put this knight here on b5, targeting my c7 pawn. I see this a lot, not necessarily in daily games, but in faster time controls. Now, I don't know if that's what this opponent was aiming for, but I decided to cut that off at the pass with a6. I probably should have waited to see if they were going to get that bishop out. And the engine thinks I should have played d5 here or e6. E6 makes sense. I want to get my dark squared bishop out and castle. But because I played this, I think the problem with that is that it gives up complete control of the center and they should have taken it. But my opponent did what I thought they were going to do, which is play bishop to f4. And like I said, if I hadn't played a6, I would have assumed they were targeting this. But now that I've played a6, I don't know how they're coming in there, because I guess they could try to come in this way, but my knight's guarding that square. So anyway, I do know why that's an inaccuracy, because it's not really doing anything. And here I did play e6, even though the engine would probably play d5 to get my light squared bishop out and castle. We're very close to even. My opponent again should take the full center, but they only went part way, which kind of shows me that they were trying to set up for a London, but forgot that the c-pawn is supposed to go to one of these two squares, and probably the knight over here. Or maybe they were just trying to follow opening principles, defending that pawn, and they were going to put the bishop out. And Stockfish thinks maybe they were thinking about putting the bishop out here, I guess, because it wants me to play b5. I played c5. That's what I do a lot of times in these d-pawn openings. Once I've played e6, is I play c5, because that gives a quick out for the bishop. And if they don't take it, I can take them. And they can't defend it with the c-pawn, so they're going to have to take back with the e-pawn, which gives up one of the center pawns. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't one of the top moves. And now we're about even. My opponent surprised me by taking that pawn. Most people don't at that point. They just let them sit there, and usually I take them to, like I said, to mess up their center pawn thing. But this allows me to get my bishop out quickly with a capture, and because I've already played a6, if the bishop is attacked quickly like this or something, I can retreat the bishop really easily back here to a7, and I'm ready to castle. Opponent got the other bishop out, which is probably a good idea. Again, I'm supposed to play b5. I'm surprised by that. Or h6. Well, I got the knight and the bishop out so I could castle, so I castled. They played their best move. And now I'm supposed to play knight to c6 because I have pieces that haven't developed yet. I played d6 here because I wanted to remain flexible about where I put the knight and the bishop. For example, the knight might want to go behind, the d-pawn here on d7. And then I can play b5 and put that bishop out this way, depending on, how everything else shakes out. But I should have just got the knight out immediately, and then it looks like my light squared bishop would just stay back on its home square for a long time. Okay, well, I played this. That keeps this bishop from looking through here. Like I said, gives me more choices with those two pieces. And my opponent castled. So again, we're very close to even. Now here, I have no idea why I played b6. I cannot explain this move at all. Because like I just said, I was thinking about b5, which would let this bishop out and continue to give my dark squared bishop a place to retreat. But because I played b6, my dark squared bishop is stuck now. And they're supposed to go for it. Knight to e4, which I would take. They would take, and that would be pointed at my rook. That probably should have been a mistake, not an inaccuracy. And my opponent did put their knight in there, so, good for them. Well, a second ago, Stockfish said I should take it with my knight, but now it definitely does not say that. It says I should put this bishop on b7, backing up. Yeah, now it says knight e4 to b7. Oh, but now taking the knight is up there. But that's weird, because a turn ago, yeah, because it used to say going, because earlier it said when they hopped in here, I would take it. Wow, I can't draw knight arrows today. But now it says bishop to b7. Okay, well, they hopped in there. Well, that's always frustrating to go back and forth, and it gives you different moves each time. But I took it knowing that they could take me, and then I moved my... Wait, I didn't move my rook up? Why not? I didn't move my rook up for some reason. Okay, well, again, I don't know why this is bad. This is when I played d5. I don't know why it's a mistake. It says it is, because they can take my h-pawn, and I would take back, then they would check me with the knight... And it says I would go forward, not back. I'm not sure why. And if I went forward, then the queen comes. Well, that's why I wouldn't go forward. But that's what it says. My best move would be to go forward. Well, that's why that's bad, apparently. It looks like they just give up a bishop for a pawn, and then I'm fine. Sorry, I just have to see. What happens here? Okay, they take that. If my opponent had seen that, they didn't. And I take back, and they check here. And it says it's worse for me to go back here. But why? Because now they come in here, and I have to give up the queen for the knight, or get checkmated. Oh, that's why I would have gone forward. Oh, okay. So if I had gone forward, they bring the queen to g4, and my best move is to go king to f6. Oh, I don't know if I would have found that or not. I probably would have played the next best move, which is f5. But then, oh, I thought they would move the knight and it would be a check. But no, it wouldn't, because their queen's under attack. So they have to move the queen. They would probably just drop back. It's the only move that's not a blunder for them. And then I would move over. Wait, no, but then they would fork me. Yeah, why would I go to f6 knowing that they could fork me? Probably because I don't have anything else to do. Even though I am up a piece for a pawn, my king's all broken open. Well, I guess I understand now why d5 was such a not good move. But that's only if my opponent had seen that, and this, and this. And they can be forgiven for not seeing that since I didn't understand it either. But in hindsight, yeah, right before I got to this turn, I just assumed that I would have moved the rook up, which is my best move, but I would have still been behind. But because my opponent didn't go down there and take on h7 and they just ran away, now we're back to even again. But only if I play f6 or knight to d7. But now I played bishop to b7 and it was counted as a miss. Wait, what did I miss? And also, what is f6 doing? Knight to d7. I mean, they're both defending that square, so maybe am I about to play e5? Is that what that's about? Because that's the only thing that both of those moves do, is protect the e5 square. So I'm supposed... Oh, well, the first one doesn't have a line, but the second one, knight to d7, says I will eventually play e5. But they're going to work really hard to keep me from playing it, apparently. And I'm not going to care about playing it for like 4 more moves. So if that's not the reason for these two, then I don't understand why those two are best or why this was counted as a miss. It's counted as a miss. I don't know. I was about to move the knight out and then my rook is free. But again, they have this. Oh, wait. How does f6 prevent that? It says when I get this bishop out, their best move is taking here. But f6 prevents that somehow. Now they're not going to do it. Why not? Because now when I take it, everything's fine. Oh, because they can't. Oh, that's what f6 is for. Okay, but wait, knight to d7 doesn't do that. Sorry, backing up. If I'd played knight to d7, can they still... Why can't they take here? Because when I take back, why can't they do this like they did earlier? Because now I can go back for some reason. And if they go over here, I protect that square with the knight. Oh my goodness. Okay. So it's changed the order now, and now it does have lines for both of them. But the reason for f6 is to prevent that coming knight check if they take on h7 and I take back with the king. And knight to d7 doesn't keep them from doing that or keep the knight from checking, but it does allow me to hop in here if they try to bring the queen for this checkmate. That is some deep level stuff, Stockfish. Because clearly my opponent didn't see this on the previous turn. They just ran away. So what makes you think they're going to see it on the next turn? I don't know. Maybe they were starting to look at it now. But yeah, that's what that does. Okay. So this was a miss because it allows that same tactic again. Again, they didn't see it and they brought this knight in here. Now I have no idea what that was doing. But can't aim there because I've protected it with the bishop. Maybe they were getting out of the way of their f-pawn. I don't know. And as usual, when I played f6, it's bad. Earlier it was my best move, but now that I did play it, it's not a good move. I should have gotten what? Come on, Stockfish. The reason I put the bishop there was to guard that square. I wanted to put my knight on d7, but not while their knight was there. I wanted to chase their knight off first. That's why I played f6. But now my opponent can bring their queen over here because their bishop's pointed there. And I would have to play f5 and leave their knight in place, right? Because if they put their queen over here and I took their knight, then they have checkmate. No, that wouldn't be checkmate. I would just run away. Wait, what? Sorry. If they played this now, which is their best move, and it says I would play f5, but why wouldn't I take here? Oh, because it's mate in 3. Because I would have to run away. They would check me, and I would go again. Wait, it's not mate now. What happened? It's mate in 3 if they take here with the bishop, because now I can't get away. Now I have to go here, and they drop back, and now when I come over, that's mate. Oh my goodness. But none of that happened. They didn't bring their queen over here, and if they had, I don't know if I would have taken the knight or not. But they ran away with the knight, which is what I thought they would do, and now I can get my knight out. Stockfish wouldn't put it on d7, and I decided not to. I decided now that I have a pawn here, why not push my e-pawn, like the engine was talking about earlier. And it does turn out to be my best move. Okay, oh, that was a great move. All right, so now that bishop has to run away. Oh, no, it doesn't. What? Their best move is b4, and I would take it. And then they would play rook to b1, and it says I would run away this way instead of over back to where it was. But I think my opponent saw what was coming here. If they did run away with this bishop, I was just going to push this forward, and I would have a little bit of a pawn fork. So they took the pawn, which of course allows me to take back, and now I'm a piece ahead for a pawn. So even though when I did play f6, it was an inaccuracy, it was only an inaccuracy if my opponent found this tactic over here, right? They had to find queen to h5. Or it says knight to g6, put the knight in here, and I would not take it, probably because if I took it, then it would be checkmate really quick. But if they had done that, I probably would have taken it. So let's say if they had played this and I had taken, it's +2 now because they take here, and my best move is to give away the rook, but they're not going to take it. They're going to bring their queen, and I'm going to have to start running. Nope, it's changed its mind. I'm not going to start running. I'm going to play queen to d7. They're not going to check me because I could run, and if they checked me again, then I could run. Now they're going to take this, and I'm going to take back. Now that rook's unprotected. So now they're going to check me, and when I move over and they come down and I get away, they get that rook. Wow. Well, that's why I usually don't play f6 or f5 or f3 or f4 over there, because every time I do, it's a mess up. But this time I did. I thought I was chasing the knight back, and it worked because of this and the coming pawn fork. And now here my opponent showed a surprising amount of foresight and I guess realized that's what I was going for. So they prevented that by taking here. But now I'm up -3. And that's if they take the pawn back, which they did. And I know I kept saying earlier I wanted to get the knight out to d7, but for some reason, I think this time I decided I wanted my queen to continue protecting that pawn, so I got my knight out to c6, which was inaccurate, and my opponent found queen to h5, finally. I guess they finally realized that their bishop was pointed here. They thought, oh no, I'm down a piece, but they picked up another pawn, so I'm only up 1 point of material, but maybe desperate times call for desperate measures. I have to play h6 here, and I did. Now, I thought they were going to play knight to g6 here, which would, I thought, force me to move the rook. But it's, yeah, I would just move the rook over one. But they surprised me by playing queen to g6. And then I realized, wait, their knight's covering f7. If it's their turn now, that's checkmate. So I've got to do something about it. Now, obviously, when they moved their queen, they left their knight hanging, so I can just take it. And then their knight's not covering that square. So I had to calculate here. If I take this knight, are they still going to check me? Then I get to get out. They can check me again with the bishop. But then I can just get out. So I took the knight, and here they surprised me again because I thought they were going to check down there. Their queen's in danger, they have to move it, but they went over here to check, which I realized, wait, that's good. That's great. They get to take the knight when I move out of check. And then I remembered I could block the check with the knight. So I'm up 4 points of material now because that knight was free. And they put the queen back over there because now if they go here, it's mate because I blocked my own getaway square. So I have to move the knight again. So I moved the knight again. Now, of all the things my opponent could have played, all the legal moves on the board, I'm a little curious how they found the best one. h4 is the best move here. I mean, probably because they don't want the knight to be there, so they decided to chase it, but they played h4, so I need to move the knight again. Well, I'm not going to put it back here because then that's checkmate. So why not put it over there? I'll have to give up a pawn if they take, but now their bishop's not defending the queen anymore. And my queen's pointed at h4. But they decided to keep going after the knight with this pawn. And I almost took on h4, but then I realized, what was that pawn doing before it moved forward? It was guarding e3. So I took e3, which is a check, forces the king to move over. Actually, they should have blocked with the rook, according to the engine, but they went over there, and then I took that h-pawn. So that's checkmate on move 20. But that's because of f3. I know it says it was inaccurate, but before that it was -5. After that, it's -12. That's more than inaccurate. That's a mistake, if not a blunder. Backing up, yeah, -5, -12. And here, if they had blocked with the rook, I just would have taken it, and it would have been protected by my knight. So they moved over and I guess didn't see the checkmate coming. Well, I'm really surprised that it says my opponent played like an 800 because I feel like they missed very similar things to the things that I missed, except that. I don't think I would have played that. I don't know, maybe I would. I played f3 earlier to chase off a knight, but yeah, most of the stuff they missed seemed pretty complex, like the whole sacrificing the bishop thing to get the knight to come in here and then bring the queen over here. We both missed that. But for some reason, it ranks my opponent as 800, and it says, you can't see it, but it says I played like a 1650. I feel like probably both of us should have been rated around 1200 here. But I think I did just now gain some appreciation for this situation, where they should have taken here. It took me a while to go through it, but I have to, especially in a daily game, I have to calculate what can they do? Where are the places they can go? They're not going to take the pawn. They're either going to drop back. They're not going to go here because I'll just take it. They're not going to go here because I'll just take it either way. But what if they go all the way? And I have to calculate that because it's a forcing move. And if I take back, I have to be able to see that the knight drops in. And again, I probably would have gone back. But then that sets up this really serious threat of the queen because the knight's right there. So, and as we saw, if I had gone forward, like it said, I would have messed that up too. So before I play this pawn, which again, I thought was a great idea, I have to ask myself, once my pawn is on d5, where does their bishop go? And is there anything here? Because there sometimes is. How many puzzles have we seen where that's what you're supposed to do? I think that's the main thing that I learned from this, and if my time is up. But after this, and after they moved back, I was pretty proud here in just a second where I found the pawn fork. After they moved the knight back and I found this, I thought they were going to drop the bishop back and I was going to go up to e4 and get one of those two pieces. So I was pretty happy with that move and that little sequence of pushing these center pawns. Obviously, again, didn't realize the danger I was in on h7, but maybe I will next time. And you know, once we got here, I felt like I was probably in command of the game. And then they took that pawn and then started bringing their queen over here. And then I didn't know if I was in command or not. And I'm only up 1 point of material and I have to play pretty precisely here. Fortunately, I did. They should not have gone forward. They should have put the knight back or in here. And if they had put the knight in there, I probably would have messed it up. But this wasn't it because of taking the knight. And I think I did okay here. Because even after this, I saved the knight by blocking with it, and they threatened the mate again, and I go this way. Like, that last little part, I thought I handled pretty well, even looking at it now. But the part that I was most proud of during the game was that little pawn advance, which turned out to be pretty bad. Anyway, thank you for spending your time here. I'll see you next time.